Remain seated, please. Permanecer sentados, por favor.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Our largest single-theme land expansion ever.
Now we want you to share with us our latest and greatest dream.
Matterhorn Matt presents Matterhorn Mondays.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 106 of Matterhorn Mondays. I have it written in my notes here, your one stop for all D23 news, but that was many weeks ago, so I should probably delete that from the notes. We are coming to you guys live from the Outpost, and I, of course, as you all know, am your host, Matterhorn Matt.
And I am your co-host, Alex the Historian, the one and only.
The one and only. Well, if there's another Alex the Historian here watching in chat besides our Alex, you're gonna have to change your name. I'm really sorry, but we are joined today by special guest, Mr. T. Will, returning guest. He's been on the show, I believe, once or twice before. Well, his voice has been on the show in the voicemails and through the waiting room, the now defunct, buried waiting room. But why don't you go ahead and say hello to everybody listening at home, Mr. T. Will?
Hello, I'm T. Will. I hang out in the Discords, get in conversations, and feed some of the news in.
Alrighty, well, thank you for that lovely introduction, Mr. T. Will. And let's see, before we get into today's show, you guys know the deal. You know the drill. Links to all the Discords, all the Twitters, everything will be in the description below, as well as the Patreon, all that jazz. And if you'd like to be wished a happy birthday live on the stream, you can submit your name and date by using the Google Forms doc down in the description below. Or if you're watching live, you can do the exclamation birthday command. The link will pop up. And we'll wish you a happy birthday live on stream. And it looks like we have one birthday this upcoming week, Thursday the 19th. We have Tiger Band 66. It's his birthday, you guys. The one and only Tiger Band 66. So happy birthday to Mr. Tiger Band. Not sure what your real name is, unless that is your real name. In which case, happy birthday, Tiger Band 66. And that is it for this week's birthdays from the peak. And yeah, it's going to be a great stream, you guys. We got a lot of amazing topics. It's been a bit of a slow news week, just like it was last week, which last week we somehow managed to fill an hour and a half with 3 lousy excuses for topics. So we're trying to pump the train again this week, you guys. We're going to get to that at least hour and 20-minute mark. But if you guys would like to voice your opinion on any of the topics at hand, leave a voicemail at 575-386-5814. We'll be listening to them live throughout the show. And I feel like I should preface this by saying you don't have to just call in during the show. You can call in at various points throughout the week as you're listening to the show. Maybe you can only listen to the show Thursday nights on your drive home from work. That's totally fine if you want to call in on your drive. I mean, I guess not while you're driving, but maybe when you get home, you can call in and leave your voicemail, which we do have one voicemail that I'd like to get to from Redmond. And I'm trying to turn my fan off, but the remote seems to be... Okay, the remote seemed to be broken there, but we do have... Alex always has a look of bewilderment, and it's always very concerning. It's always when I start talking. But anyways, let's go ahead and get to this voicemail from Mr. Redmond here, see what he has to say.
Hi, it's Redmond, a long-time listener, first-time caller. I just wanted to ask a question. With all the D23 updates coming to Epcot, would a statue of Bob Chapstick be more appropriate than a Walt Disney statue, considering it's not Walt's vision? Thank you. Hashtag honor the Bob.
The issue with that is that I want to answer that. The issue with that signifies that Chapwick accomplished something, and really he hasn't.
Oh, nay, Bobby, if you're listening, nay. Oh, that's a hee moment. But anyways, I've never heard of Bob Chapstick before. That's a good one. I'm gonna put that one in my memory box.
I think the other issue is trying to make sure that they wax the top of that head of the statue to match Bob's actual head. It's just going to be near impossible.
It'll be like the SpongeBob movie where King Neptune's bald head is shown. It's just my eyes.
It blinds everybody in the 5,000 feet radius. Yeah, you guys, Redmond, it was a lovely question, but if they ever make if they ever make a statue for Bob Chapstick in the parks, you best know. If it's missing the next day, you'll know who stole it. It's obviously going to be me. I'm going to hang it up right behind me. You guys will see him poking out now and then. But anyways, before we get into this week's news from the Peak, let's take a look and see what kind of Snapple Matterhorn Matt is drinking today. I don't know why I have like a weird accent, but today we're switching it up. We have the Kiwi Snapple, Kiwi Strawberry actually, flavored juice drink from concentrate with other natural flavors. And surprise, surprise, this has 45 grams of sugar. I think that's almost more than a Dr. Pepper, but that was a weak snap. Let's see. Real fact number 144. Texas is the only state that permits residents to cast absentee ballots from space. Absentee. What the heck does an absentee mean? What is... If someone, please...
It means that if you're voting, if there's an election, but you're out of state. So say you're in California at Disneyland, but there's an election in New Mexico. You write in an absentee ballot and mail it in, and they'll count that.
So I guess they're banking on Texas's space program to take off, because it does say you can cast ballots from space, which is very interesting. Thank you, Snapple, for bringing that lovely piece of information to my eyes and to my ears, and now it's locked in my brain forever. But Avery said in the chat, we are not using the jingle that you made just because we're going to take some time, have a professional... I just spilled Snapple all over my hand. We're going to take some time to have a professional actually, create the jingle. Not knocking on you, Avery, but it's just when you called in, the audio quality was very poor because it was a phone call. I feel so bad, Avery. I love you, Avery, but it was the audio quality was over a phone call. We're gonna get it though. I have it saved. I have your voicemail saved. We're gonna use it as a template. Maybe Alex can bust out his singing pipes like he has in the past, and he'll record it for us, or we'll have someone do it.
That'd be pretty funny.
But last bit of Snapple news. Well, I guess this is technically not Snapple news. This is Matt Snaps news. You can still buy our Matt Snaps pins. You can't see it there because it's out of focus, and whenever I try to refocus, it doesn't refocus properly, but there's that. You can still buy those. Link in the description below, as well as the Matt Snaps t-shirts, which I can't wear on the show because it green screens out, so it looks like I'm invisible, which is very sad. But anyways, moving on to our first lovely segment, actually. This is actually my favorite segment in the show. News from the Peak.
We now present to you News from the Peak.
And for our first bit of news from the Peak, Bob Iger resigns from Apple's board ahead of Apple TV Plus and Disney Plus's launch. I debated everybody there. Bob Iger did not resign from Disney, but he did resign from Apple's board, which I guess he's been a part of for apparently 8 years, which I don't know how I hadn't heard of that before. He resigned on...
Because you're Matt.
That's true. It's because I'm Matt, yeah. It's going to be a great episode, you guys.
We now present
that's not what I wanted to do.
News from the Peak.
It's news from the Peak, you guys. In case you didn't know, I had to do it twice. But, he resigned on September 10th, which also happened to be the same day Apple held their Worldwide Developers Conference event, disclosing more details on their Apple TV Plus. What's with all... I feel like this is like an extra topic as well. What's with all the pluses in the names of streaming services? You have Disney Plus, you have Apple TV Plus. Those are the only two I can think of off the top of my head. But I'm sure there's more.
Plus.
ESPN Plus, that's 3 already. There's going to be probably I don't know. I can't think of any examples. But yeah, whole different topic. Bob Iger was quoted as saying, "I have the utmost respect for Tim Cook, his team at Apple, and for my fellow board members. Apple is one of the world's most admired companies, known for the quality and integrity of its products and its people, and I am forever grateful to have served as a member of the company's board." So, in case you guys didn't know, Disney and Apple are both launching their own streaming services, and this resignation is most likely because of that. I don't know if it creates some sort of conflict of interest or something. I don't know if that's the right phrase, but
it does.
Well, let's go ahead and start with Mr. Alex. What are your brief thoughts on Mr. What's his name? Bob Iger resigning from the Apple board. Apple board, yeah.
From the Apple board?
Apple board.
I don't know why that sounds funny. Well, I kind of expected it, because seeing as they're both coming out their own streaming services, it's a big legal issue. If one person creates something that the other person was gonna create, they could say, oh, there was some kind of spying or espionage going on that led one person to create it first, even though the other person was already designing it. So I knew this was coming, basically. So,
Mr. T. Will, what are your thoughts on Bob Iger resigning from the Apple board?
Seems bog standard business practice, especially with competing products ahead. I mean, it's just interesting to see Iger doing something, especially as it shows more and more how serious they are about the Disney Plus product, and how so overall, that's all I really need to say. Sorry.
Well, Sam pointed out, does Bob Iger have a chipped tooth? And it appears, if you zoom and enhance the image, it does appear that he has a chipped tooth. The front left, it looks like. I can't zoom in physically here because I have everything.
Looks kind of like a little piece of ham.
It could be. It could be ham. It could be who knows what it could be. It could be ham. It could be a chipped tooth. Bob Iger, he probably, all those meetings, he accidentally got that white Sharpie marker when he was drawing on the boards on his tooth. You never know, but we're gonna confirm here that he does have a chipped tooth. And second bit of news from the Peak. This is no surprise to literally anybody. Galaxy's Edge no longer using the themed sporks at their Hollywood Studios version of the land. Less than 2 weeks after the opening of Docking Bay 7, the themed sporks have, not surprisingly, disappeared and been replaced by normal forks. Now, I'm sure you guys may or may not know, the same problem happened to Disneyland's Galaxy's Edge when the land first opened in May, and I'm trying to hold in a burp. Gosh. I just cannot. I couldn't hold it in. I'm sorry. But, Mr. T. Will, what are your thoughts on the themed sporks? Like I said, not surprisingly going away at Hollywood Studios' version of Galaxy's Edge.
Scalpers ruin everything. And Disney's pretty much the biggest victim of scalping, other than video games. So I mean, it's still. I mean, I even saw people steal. I mean, when I was part of the college program, I saw people essentially stealing from the. I heard stories of people actually stealing from the company, like giving away $4,500 worth of Mickey bars to their cast member friends.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of outdoor vendors got termed for that. Some of them on their very first day of their college program extension, funny enough. So it's not surprising. I just wish that it would stay longer, because I get what they were going for with the theme sporks, have everything in theme, but sometimes, people take advantage.
Yeah, party poopers gonna poop on all the parties. Alex, what are your thoughts on the themed sporks going away at Galaxy's Edge in Florida?
Well, it's just a repeat of how I felt when they took them away from here at Disneyland. I mean, it made me really sad, because it was just that little element that made the whole thing feel more complete.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's just it makes me angry that people just steal from the parks, because they're so selfish. They're like, oh, I want a piece of this and I'm gonna take it home with me, even though it doesn't belong to me. And it just makes me so mad. It's like, this is, I mean, to use a phrase which is constantly hilarious to people, but the phrase is, this is why we can't have nice things. So
yeah, and it's interesting. I did see this discussion brought up on the Discord or somewhere of people throwing the suggestion out there, why doesn't Disney just sell these sporks to the guests instead of having them getting stolen? I mean, you can still sell the sporks, I guess, technically, and have people be able to use them while you eat And then, that basically negate the whole scalper middleman of people trying to steal the sporks.
Well, no, because then scalpers will just buy the whole lot and then
Okay.
try and resell them on eBay. So it's just kind of a lose-lose situation if you do something like that.
Okay, I guess that's a fair point. Yeah, I'm very sad about this. Like I said, I haven't had a chance to try these sporks, so I'm very sad that I'm probably never going to get a chance to try them unless I happen to stumble across. I think in the past, when this first happened to Disneyland, we looked on eBay and they were selling for like $80. So unless I want to dish out $80 to buy a spork on eBay, I'm never going to get the chance to use these. And even if I did, I'm sure I'd get some dirty looks from the cast members when they saw me whip one of these bad boys out when I'm trying to eat at Docking Bay 7. They probably give me a hard time, most likely. But for our final bit of Disney news here, like I said, pretty slow news week, but let's see. We now have our first official look at the ride vehicles for Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind Coaster Electric Boogaloo, as Alex likes to toss on there. The vehicles are being called the Omnicoaster since the vehicles can rotate in 360 degrees and they can also launch in reverse. Very interesting type of design. I don't think I've ever seen a roller coaster vehicle that can rotate like that. Again,
I have.
Oh, Alex. Do tell.
Are you not aware of of the Mad Mouse coasters that have the swiveling?
Oh, yes.
It's just that these ones have a little motor on it, so it's like that's the difference. I mean, it's cool. I mean, I'm not dissing it. I'm just saying it's an old concept, but this time it's a controlled version.
Yeah, it looks very interesting. I know a lot of people give a lot of hate, for good reason, to this coaster being in Epcot, but I'm holding out hope. I love Guardians of the Galaxy, the films. I like Mission Breakout for what it is. I think it's a decent attraction, given what they had to work with. I love, like I said, the characters of Guardians of the Galaxy. I guess you could call me part of the problem, is that's really what I'm trying to allude at. But I do have hope that this coaster will end up knocking my socks off. We'll see. That's all I have to say on that as well. T-Will, what are your thoughts on this brand new coaster? Well, it's been revealed in the past. We've seen images, we've seen the specs leak, but this is the first real image, or I guess video, that we have of the vehicles.
Yeah, it looks overall very nice. So there's not really much to say. It's very well designed. It's a matter of what the story and overall experience that the vehicles go through. That's the ultimate question.
Mm-hmm.
And because you can have a cool looking vehicle all you want, but if you don't have anything of substance to do it, then what's the point?
I agree 100% because there's a thing that sometimes Disney doesn't understand, even though they're the ones that created it years ago, which is like the ride vehicle. It's not about the technology. It's about, is this the best way to tell the story? And so sometimes they choose a ride vehicle for a story which doesn't match. It's not the right vehicle for the story, but they do it because sometimes they just really want to show off their technology. So I hope that this ride, for the sake of the story and for the sake of the experience, that this is what it needs and it's not just about the technology.
I think this will overall fit better with Guardians because inherently the roller coaster is kind of a little rambunctious, a little, always thrilling, and it just overall fits with the theme and attitudes of the Guardians, more so than a Drop Tower. Drop Tower more elicits, even with the more playful attitude, it still elicits fear more than it does thrills, unlike a roller coaster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Well, again, we'll see. I'm optimistic about the attraction. I'm hoping it turns out to be. I'm just hoping it fits within the theme of Epcot. But anyways, I do believe that is everything from this week's news from the Peak. And I always forget to mention this, but links to all the articles we are referring to will be down in the description below. And before we get into any of these major pieces of news, I guess you could call them major. I think they're major. But we do have a quick little segment from Mr. Alex in the parks, if I can find Alex in the parks.
This tune embarrasses me.
I think it's pretty nifty. It fits the theme 100%. But yeah, we do have some new news coming from Disneyland Resort. A new pedestrian bridge has recently opened. I guess I won't spoil anything because that's pretty much... Okay, Alex, you can go ahead and take it away. We do have some video clips as well to accompany this from YouTube channel She's in Los Angeles. Links to all those videos will be in the description below. So, Alex, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
Okay, so again, this is from She's in Los Angeles. I follow her channel a lot. She has amazing videos of the construction progresses happening at Disneyland Resort. And anyway, so we've been following the opening of this new pedestrian bridge that's going on that will lead people from... Sorry, my roommate's coming home, so you're going to hear her walk in. That will lead from the parking structure over to downtown Disney. And that consists of a bridge that goes from the parking structure over Disney Way and then comes back down to ground level, goes through kind of a garden area, and then leads to the security checkpoint in front of downtown Disney over by the Rainforest Cafe. So this is pretty cool. They installed the bridge in two pieces. It came on large flatbed trucks. They lifted up in the air, installed the two pieces together. And then all this time they've been doing the landscaping and just finishing off everything. I think it looks really amazing, and I think it'll be a great way to get to downtown Disney from the parking structure without having to take the tram, which can sometimes be kind of a long wait, especially if maybe you're not heading to that part of downtown Disney, because the trams drop you off over by the Esplanade. So if you're trying to get to, let's say, Earl of Sandwich, then you still have to do a lot of walking from that point over. I mean, it's not a lot of walking. I'm used to walking, but I mean, some people can't. Let's not get into that. So anyway, so this is just more convenient in that sense. So anyway, I really like it, and the walkway looks nice. I imagine it'll light up very beautifully at night. They probably have little LEDs along the railings and stuff like that. I've yet to see it, and maybe when I go back to Disneyland this week, maybe I'll see it during the daytime, that kind of thing. So that's all I have, I think, for the pedestrian bridge. And then there's another video clip if you want to start playing that. So Disney also revealed the new, I think it's kind of like a queue area where you wait to get into the security checkpoint underneath Pixar Pals parking. This is a large shaded area where people can stand if the lines get very long. There's like benches that surround the little tree planters, so that way you can sit if you need to. And also, the area where there's no trees, that's where the trams will drop people off who are coming from the parks. So that's a cool way. They just get off the trams there. They walk up to either one of the parking structures. So it's kind of a really cool idea because you're waiting in the shade when you go to security, but when you need to get off the tram and find your parking structure, there's no trees to block your view. So it's easy to see things. They're getting ready to install the new icon of the Mickey and Friends parking structure. So earlier they revealed the icon of the Pixar Pals, which is the Pixar ball. But the one for Mickey and Friends will be a 3-dimensional Mickey head, but the color scheme on the head will be his little red pants, and then the rest of it will be black to represent his like body color. That sounded weird, but anyway, so that's going to be the new design. How do I know this? Well, earlier in the other video that she showed the pedestrian bridge, there was a little sign that showed Pixar Pals parking, and and Mickey and Friends. And the little Pixar Pals parking had the Pixar Pals ball that you could see. And on the one that said Mickey and Friends, it showed the Mickey silhouette with the red pants. So I thought that was pretty neat. And that's probably what they're installing right there in front of the Mickey and Friends escalators on the ground level. So anyway, that is what's going on. And now you are all up to date. Applause.
Yay. I still don't have a clapping sound effect, but where'd
it go?
I'm still waiting for the Avatar and Pals parking structure. You guys know after the hit movie Avatar and its many sequels.
That's what they'll do when they take out the Grand Californian to make Pandora.
Oh my gosh! Could you imagine?
No. What they do instead is that they take over Grizzly Peak and make it another hotel.
Oh. You guys, it just makes me...
Disney's Hotel Adventure.
Or they could make actual floating rocks and have the theme park be on those floating rocks that actually float without any wires or anything. That'd be...
What if they turn Soarin' Over California or Soarin' Over the World into the Flight of Passage? It'd be so weird.
That would be... Well, maybe you get on the ride, and then the exit takes you into Pandora, which is in a completely different part of the park. But you have to walk like a mile to get there because it's a mile away from all the other...
the resort.
Yeah, you guys... Mr. Chapek, the Bob, if you're listening, hit us up. We have great ideas. But anyways, moving on to our first main topic of the day. Well, I guess I'll give a rundown of what our main topics today are going to comprise of. We're going to be getting into the castle refurb currently happening at Hong Kong Disneyland. We're going to be getting into some budget cuts coming to the Walt Disney World Resort. And we're also going to sprinkle on right at the end some Rise of the Resistance rumors and very brief. We'll see if it's brief or not. I always say that, and it's never brief. Disneyland capacity discussion based on the recent unfoldings of the parks being empty. I guess that spoils that. But for our first topic of the day, this is something I believe we've only touched on very briefly in the past, which is kind of surprising to me because in my mind, it's such a big topic. The castle, as they're calling it, the Castle of Magical Dreams, has been topped off at Hong Kong Disneyland. Now, I'm going to show you guys some images here. This is what the original castle looked like when Hong Kong Disneyland opened. And I guess for those of you that don't know, to my understanding, the castle at Hong Kong Disneyland is almost a carbon copy of Disneyland's Sleeping Beauty castle. I could be wrong. Someone correct me if there's some sort of spire or whatever that's missing from the two. But to my understanding, they're carbon copies. And it was later announced, I believe almost a year and a half ago at this point, that this castle would be the first Disney castle to receive an expansion, adding on to the original castle, creating an entirely new structure dubbed the Castle of Magical Dreams. Now, this is what, like I said, the castle looked like almost exactly a year ago at this point. You can see it looks almost identical, or I guess it does look nearly identical to Sleeping Beauty Castle in Disneyland in California. And these are the recent images coming out of Hong Kong just this past week. As you can see, the original castle is covered up in these tarps, while the expansion part has been nearly completed. Now it's a very interesting topic because I've had a lot of discussions with people who have very mixed feelings about this. Now here's another really great angle. These images are all coming to us from Blog Mickey. Great website. I always give tons of praise to Blog Mickey. Go check out their website. Here's another image straight from Main Street. Here's a third image. It's raining. If the power goes out, I'm going to be SOL, but here's another image. I believe this is from closer near. It looks towards the hub, maybe the partner statue. And here is the concept art that Disney released a while back of what the castle is supposed to look like. As you can see, it's again, I guess we'll just get right into the discussion. It's a real interesting choice, architecturally wise. I don't know how to phrase that. Because you can
architecturally speaking.
Architecture. Thank you, Alex. I'm not going to be able to repeat it because I can't pronounce the word architecturally. But as you can see from this piece of concept art, he's staring into my soul. As you can see from this piece of concept art, you can clearly see the original Sleeping Beauty castle right there in the concept art, as well as from the recent images I showed you guys earlier. And then just like this, you know what this reminds me of? I hate to just go negative right away, but it reminds me of like if a kid maybe had like a Sleeping Beauty castle like dollhouse kind of toy, and they just like added onto it with like Play-Doh or something. That's kind of what this reminds me of. You know,
far out reference, it may be a far out reference for some here, but it actually reminds me of Resident Evil 2, because there's a character who takes a virus and it starts mutating him, and you could see like his original like human body as his new form morphs into a grotesque monster. It's kind of what it reminds me of.
Well, just by hearing the word grotesque, I think it applies.
I mean, to me, it looks like some kind of magical spell took over the original castle, turned it into some kind of organic creature, and then something started growing out of its back into this massive monstrosity that just grew out of the back of this now organic castle. It's just like really weird. It looks strange. And if you'd like, I can go into detail as to why I think it's so strange.
Oh, please. That's what the people are here for, Alex.
That's what we're here for, to hear Alex bash another castle. So with this castle, Disney, the reason why they're correcting the castle and they're doing this is because of the fact that the different countries in Asia are becoming more and more aware of their own culture. There was a point, in the late 20th century where they were trying to emulate a bunch of other things around the world that they really liked. But now they're coming into their own, and they're kind of like, well, we want our own stuff. And so when Sleeping Beauty Castle was built there, it just seemed like the feeling of having their own thing was non-existent. So when they built the Shanghai park, they were very much trying to make it something that felt very Chinese, but at the same time wholly its own. And so they took a look at Sleeping Beauty Castle in Hong Kong, and they were like, we got to do the same thing here. We got to make it its own, so that way they feel like it's theirs. They're not borrowing something from America.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what they tried to do here. And so the idea of the architecture of the castle is that there's a bunch of different inspired stuff from all over the world, but mainly the architecture is entirely unique. And it's somewhat reminiscent of like Hong Kong architecture and stuff like that. And Hong Kong was at different points controlled by different countries. So there's a whole bunch of architectural styles there. So in all essences, this is a Hong Kong castle. The problem with it is it's a Hong Kong castle. It doesn't look right. A lot of castles are European or even English or British or Scottish. And in some way, shape, or form, they are associated with that part of the world. So when you try to take a structure that is generally supposed to look like a certain way, and then you try to add other cultural stuff into it, it kind of looks weird, not in a good way. And not that weird can be associated with, good, but anyway. So that's the problem with it. It looks like it's something it's not supposed to be, just visually. If they had decided to choose something more Asian inspired, something that looked more like what you might find somewhere on the Chinese mainland or whatnot, then it might have looked better. Even if they decided that they wanted to demolish the original castle entirely and build something entirely new in its place, that fit better, then that would have been good. But the fact that they chose to make this thing just grow out of the spine of the original castle, it just doesn't look right. It just looks odd. So that is my little issue.
In terms of when it comes to the original Sleeping Beauty castle for Hong Kong, I don't think it was that they were just plopping over there. I think that was more a budgetary issue because Eisner really wanted to go cheap on the Hong Kong park itself. So they just plopped it over there because in Tokyo they deliberately plopped over Sleeping Cinderella Castle over there because that's what they wanted. Whereas Hong Kong is more like, here, you'll get this, whatever. And I mean, the change overall is not a bad idea. It gives the park its own unique identity. Be able to at least differentiate itself in some way. I just think the overall design could have been stronger. There's something about like, I think one issue for me is that it just seems too bright in terms of color. I think it needs a little bit more of a contrasting dark. Even something as simple as it's like when you mix the white with the gold, there's not enough contrast for me to really kind of get on board with it. And I think they were restricted because they wanted to throw some spires from Aladdin, and that has a distinct color to it. And if you change that color, it looks off. So everything else kind of looks off. I get what they were going for. I just think they just need a little bit more work on the design. And that's my only issue. I have no problem with them changing it or so forth. It's just even just simple color changes could really make it better, in my opinion.
The other thing too is that this larger part of the castle has a very small footprint on ground level.
Yeah.
And yet it's extremely tall. So to me, when it's viewed from different vantage points of the park, it doesn't look so much like a castle as a very oddly shaped tower. So it's just kind of weird.
Yeah, again, I agree with... Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Do you guys think that do you think this change of the castle is tied at all with Hong Kong and mainland China tensions or something? It's just something it's something worth thinking about at the very least.
Yeah, I haven't been keeping, I guess, as up to date as I should on my Hong Kong politics, but Alex looked like he was trying to hold something back over there when you brought that up.
I'm just deep in thought. I'm trying to figure out, do I say something? And if I do, what do I say?
It's just a fun question. For all we know, it could be. For all we know, it couldn't be. It's just fun hypothesizing at this point.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I do agree with T-Will. The color scheme is interesting because I'm going to switch. This is a really great video from wonderland912.com. I think the YouTube channel's name is in Chinese, so I can't quite pronounce it, but I'm going to flip back to the piece of concept art that I showed earlier. Let's see, here it is. So the newer editions of the castle, well, I failed to mention as well that this castle is I believe it's supposed to represent all 13 Disney princesses, with each of the spires being unique to each of the princesses. So you have a Fiona spire, an Aurora spire, Ariel, all that kind of stuff. And I don't have the image here shown up on screen, but it's very interesting. The color scheme is really what throws me off as well, because you can see with these newer editions of the castle, it's like a bright, almost white, and I don't know if it looks like people threw dirt at it for to try and age it, but it's very interesting to contrast that with the blues and even the brown, the more grayish brickwork of the original Sleeping Beauty castle. It just doesn't really mesh well. in my opinion, I feel like if they stuck with the same color scheme throughout the castle, then it would look, okay for what it is. But it's just very interesting.
It seems like it's got like 10 different colors going on, which is kind of odd. Like there's something about it just seems weird, and I can't put my finger on it. I mean, I suppose it's just the meshing of these different cultures, cultural architecture into one just looks odd. I know what they're trying to do. I get it, and I applaud them for it, but I don't think it was done in the best way.
Mm-hmm.
Because
sorry.
I'm trying to think. I think I could be wrong, but I think Mystic Manor did something similar, but that fit overall with the overall idea of Henry Mystic's house and kind of an explorer collecting culture and and taking on a tour with that. So it's that. So I mean, I could be wrong, but I think that's what happened over there, and it works for that story. But when you kind of combine it for a castle, you have to be more delicate, and it can go more horribly wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like we mentioned at the beginning, this is the first instance we've seen so far of a Disney castle being, I guess, turned into another castle. How do I even phrase that? Of altering, I guess, of a Disney castle. This is the first real major instance we've seen of this. And
we're witnessing genetic mutation of a Disney castle.
Yeah, it's like we should be doing studies on it or something.
Genetically modified castles. Watch out for GMCs.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, yeah, it is very interesting. Good for them, I guess, for trying to do something different. I'm sure maybe it'll turn out, maybe we'll all be wrong once this opens, and it'll look amazing. But one final note that I'd like to bring up, right as I try to hold back the sneeze. Okay.
Hold back the sneeze.
Oh my gosh. I almost just exploded right into my microphone. But one other interesting note. Stop laughing. One other interesting note to bring up here is in the concept art, they show a stage in the front of the castle, similar to the Magic Kingdoms style stage that they have, as well as what looks like to be a very scaled down kind of World of Color-esque pond. Or it could just be, water fountains. I mean, they'd have to be in some sort of water, I guess, to function. So it does look like they're going to be, I don't even know how to phrase this. You have the stage and you have the water fountains up front, which in the past we've detailed about how Disney may or may not be looking to get out of doing fireworks shows. And Alex and I talked about, World of Color is a great example of shows in Disney parks that don't have fireworks, that can still be good and not have fireworks. So this is an interesting, not confirmed or anything, that they're going to be getting rid of the fireworks shows at Hong Kong Disneyland just because of this piece of concept art. But it is worth mentioning because it does sort of tie in back to what we've talked about previously. It's just I thought someone was going to start saying something.
Sorry. I thought someone was going to start saying something too. I was like waiting. Okay, so sorry. So it makes me wonder, because when I saw this artwork, I think it was last year, I was kind of like, oh, that's interesting. It's going to be something like World of Color, to replace, their fireworks and stuff. And I thought, what if they did that at Disneyland? And again, I thought this a year ago. I was thinking Disney wants to replace their fireworks shows at Disneyland, but the question is, how do they do it? People need something to see.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if this becomes a successful thing, will they be doing it at Disneyland sometime in the future?
So what you're saying is that they're going to completely remodel Sleeping Beauty Castle to make
no,
this. Okay.
no. I mean the little show out front. the little water show.
Yeah.
I mean, will we get one of those to replace our fireworks? That's kind of what I was thinking, because they already do this water show in Shanghai. They're going to be doing it in Hong Kong now. And it's obviously probably, well, it's most likely going to be a successful way to do shows at Disney parks from now on at their Magic Kingdom style parks. So it makes me wonder, will we be getting a water show at Disneyland sometime in the future to replace our fireworks?
Maybe this is me overthinking it, but when it comes to a water projection show in front of the castle, especially with how small it is for Sleeping Beauty, I kind of wonder if the kind of fallout, so to speak, from the mist would then start causing issues for like the drawbridge and so forth, and just make it kind of like a slipping nightmare, like the old Magic Kingdom Tomorrowland monoliths that with the waterfalls, because that started causing issues of wet walkways and so forth.
It probably would, but I don't think that would deter Disney, because
it deterred them back in the mid '80s after they installed them in '71. So anything's possible.
Well, I just mean it rains, throughout the year, so it's like, something's got to be slippery when wet,
Well, I guess it is worth noting. It's an interesting idea for Hong Kong specifically, because they're getting this big expansion to the castle height-wise, where you can do these kinds of water fountain effects. Maybe in the piece of concept art we're looking at here, there's not necessarily like mist projections like you'd see at World of Color or in Fantasmic. They're just like water jumping, skipping, spitting water fountains, whatever you want to call them. I feel like that would work better for these bigger style castles, because they have the height to, as well as, project onto the castle as well. Whereas for Disneyland, we're not getting a castle extension, obviously. And if you did do those water effects and big mist projection screens, then you basically block out the entirety of Sleeping Beauty Castle. So it is very interesting to think about.
True. I didn't think about that, because even if you do like a water screen, those water screens can be like 50 feet tall, and that's already like 2/3 the height of the castle right there. So
yeah. Well, maybe we can save this for a future discussion, because it's obvious not just us but people in the chat have a lot to say about this. I do want to highlight one comment from David. Well, I'll get used to it in a year and like the new one better. I feel like that fits this community really well, that phrase.
Yeah.
So thank you, David, for saying that. It's a very great, I guess not analogy, but a really great phrase to fit into our Disney parks community. But anyways, before we get into our next topics, let's go ahead and take a quick break to hear from the podcast's sponsors. If you guys are wondering where you can find even more family-friendly live streams just like this one, head on over to theliveplace.com. The Live Place is your headquarters for great family-friendly live streams. They cover anything from Disney to other vacation spots, various variety shows, and have some amazing streamers like Resort TV 1 and myself. Also, be sure to check out puckermint.com, where you can find amazing pins and stickers. Puckermint is based out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, just a few hours from where I live. And since I'm a big believer in supporting local artists, we decided to partner up. Be sure to use the coupon code down below when you make your next order. Again, that's puckermint.com and puckermint on Instagram.
There time for a cigarette break?
I don't smoke.
Matt? What happened? I'm muted.
Oh, wow, you guys can't hear what I'm saying. That's awkward. I was going on a whole rant there about the leftover Sonic burger I had next to me, and how it was smelling up my room with all the mustard, and how... Dang it. Well,
Oh man, I thought something was wrong with my computer because I was like, "Wait, what's going on?"
I thought it was Matt screwing up again.
I mean, it always is, but yeah, it was a great joke that sadly has been lost to the time. Unless you guys can read mouths. Well, I guess you can't even read. You can, because my mouth is blocked by the pop filter. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into our second main topic of the day. And if you guys like budget cuts, this is going to be a great topic for you. Tons of budget cuts. Well, I guess I shouldn't say tons. Some budget cuts to live entertainment are coming to Walt Disney World. And we discussed this, I believe, 2 or 3 episodes ago with Jeremy in Disneyland. So now we're seeing these sort of repercussions out on the East Coast Disney American parks. So let's go ahead and get into this. The budget cuts, including the very popular, I guess. I didn't know a lot of people liked this show. The Muppets Present Great Moments in American History. I did not know that was such a popular show among the fans. But as well as the Royal Majesty Maker, which I have no idea what that is. Those will both close in the Magic Kingdom. Excuse me. As well as the Move It, Shake It, Dance, and Play It parade will be reduced to only 2 shows per day. I think that's a parade. It didn't specifically say in the WDW Magic article that it was a parade, but
think of it as a 2010s Soundsational.
Oh,
probably the best way it's probably the best way I can explain it.
Okay,
briefly.
So it's one of those parades. All right. Well, anyways, the recently opened Lightning McQueen's Pit Crew and The Incredibles Super... I misspelled that word in my notes, and I have no idea what it said before. The Incredibles show will be both closing at Hollywood Studios, as well as Hakuna Matata Time at the Animal Kingdom will end as well. And these changes are set to go into effect before October 6th. So, I don't know. I love the Muppets. I've never seen the show, but apparently a lot of people were big fans of this. The Muppets Present Great Moments in American History. I think this is the show that they do in Liberty Square or Liberty Street, where they have the puppets like in the windows of the buildings and stuff, and they babble to each other. T-Will's nodding, so I'm assuming that's what it is. But
yeah, it's essentially they started it about a few years ago. It's pretty much an American history lesson told by the Muppets.
Okay.
And that's all I really need to say. And
Okay.
It really does, you have Sam the Eagle right above Hall of Presidents,
Mhm.
and you see, Fozzie and Kermit and all of them trying to actually tell the story. I mean, a little chaos ensues, obviously, but they do actually but they are essentially educating people, and it really does. It was fun, and it really, it's a proper use of IP, so to speak, utilizing the Muppets to kind of invoke the whole idea, invoke the whole theme of Liberty Square.
Yeah, someone said, I feel like I should address this as well. Reverend Puck said, I took away that it seems like the Muppets not having a good week with this show and the Disney Plus show getting canceled. There was an article published recently about the Muppets TV show for Disney Plus getting canceled. That's sort of a misleading headline because there were 2 Muppet shows in production for Disney Plus, and one of them got canceled. The other one is still apparently going through to production. So fear not, Reverend Puck. There's still going to be at least one Muppets TV show. For now, yeah, for now.
Please
on
don't
Disney
say that,
Plus.
Alex.
I've never been a fan of the Muppets. I never watched them. Not saying I hate the Muppets, but I've never watched any of the Muppet Show when I was a kid, or never seen. I'm sure I've seen some of the movies, but I never really attached myself to like the characters of Kermit the Frog. I like the song where he was singing about rainbows. That's just about the only piece of Muppet media that I actually enjoy, I guess. I don't know. To each their own. I'm fine with the Muppets. I feel like they're a very underused property. But very interesting. T-Will, what are your thoughts on these? I don't know. It's really sad to say that there are even more budget cuts coming to not just Disneyland, but to the Walt Disney World as a whole.
One thing I will say is the Hakuna Matata time and the Incredible Super Shindig, that's the name of the thing. I believe those were dance parties, so not too much loss there. But it is this but the Muppet thing, the Muppet Show, and I would even say like the Royal Majesty Makers in Fantasyland and the Pit Crew, all that is not really. That's overall. It's always disappointing to see Streetmosphere and live entertainment really get the brunt of cuts and layoffs and so forth. And there's even talks of possibly more, maybe even more like frontline cast members getting laid off soon. Now, it might be too soon. Like, it's only been a couple weeks since Disney World got Galaxy's Edge, so maybe it's not entirely that. Disney World is starting to face a good amount of issues with attendance overall. Like, people are bookings are not that frequent. I've heard from some people that people are more waiting out until like next year or maybe even a couple years out because they don't want to miss something or they expect crowds and so forth. And it's just overall, Disney World has, from what I've been hearing at least, has been facing a few issues with attendance more than we kind of realize.
Okay, well that's interesting because I don't necessarily keep tabs on Walt Disney World's attendance. I guess I've always assumed that, they touted it as the vacation kingdom of the world. I never really, assumed that Walt Disney World would have a lack of attendance. I guess I said the same thing about Disneyland as well, but now, as you guys know, but, yeah, T-Will, you opened your mouth very briefly.
It was just thinking overall, it might be just kind of this onward trend of this is more because we saw last year entertainment and layoffs come from a very uniquely slow fall in case of Disney. So it's for Disney World. So it's this overall concern going around that have they overcomplicated vacationing over there with reservations half a year in advance and the 90-day fast passes if you're on property, and overall kind of a question that we'll probably get to is of the ticket pricing, and how that's affecting people, and maybe even just announcing too much for too late. Like, so many things are going to come out in 2021, Tron, Guardians, and by that point Mickey and maybe Rise of the Resistance will be open by then. So you have all these anticipations of all this stuff, and because Walt Disney World is so, even beforehand it's been so expensive that you save up to do it, why go this year when you're not going to probably get the most bang for your buck when you can go a couple of years later and you'll have more money and you'll get to experience everything. It's a different dynamic for Disney World. So that's, and it's showing a concerning trend, so to speak, for the resort.
Okay. Well, that's sort of something I've never put into perspective about vacationing to Walt Disney World being too complicated. But I do, once you bring up all those points, I can see how that would sort of, not necessarily scare away a lot of, normal families, because you did mention the fast pass stuff. That's a lot. It's very complicated on its own. I don't know, Alex, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I do have to agree that vacationing to Walt Disney World is pretty complicated. I mean, it feels like you're planning out like a trip to some like far away region of the world where you have to like hire a small plane to take you in. It's like almost that complicated, and it shouldn't be that complicated to go on vacation, to a major destination, I mean. So I don't know, but I do know that these budget cuts are pretty scary. And then the fact that the attendance levels in the park have been overall pretty low. I mean, once in a while there is a pretty busy day, but I mean, overall it's pretty low. And it's just a weird thought to think, like, like just a few months ago we were talking about overcrowding in the parks.
Yeah.
And how crazy how crazy the parks have been, and that after Galaxy's Edge opens it's going to be even crazier. And then it's like the exact opposite happened.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little scary because as much as we complain about how overcrowded the parks are, we need the parks to be crowded for the parks to be making a lot of money and for them to keep developing. So I'm sorry. Didn't get a lot of sleep. So anyway, so yeah, I'm very concerned about this, and it makes me wonder, like, what will developments be like in the near future? Will they be focusing a lot of money on things? Are they going to hold off? I mean, there's word of a global recession on its way. How will this affect, the way the parks operate, how they spend money, how many people will be attending the parks? One easy thing that Disney could do is lower the prices. But that's actually a very...
That was like a sarcastic laugh.
But that's a very complicated issue, because you lower the prices $1 and next thing you know the parks are overcrowded. So it's just a weird thing. So I don't know.
Yeah, it is very interesting as well. People have brought up, T-Will brought it up, and now someone, Amuboy 10, I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong, in chat said people are waiting for the 50th anniversary in 2021. I guess I never really thought of I never really could wrap my head around the idea of people waiting. I don't even know how to phrase this, of like waiting for a certain thing to open in a Disney park to go on vacation there. I always assumed that people went on vacation while, there's construction happening for a new attraction, then, we'll catch it next year when we go. But I guess that is sort of a common trend, people going, less and less. I don't know. It's just something weird that I haven't been able to wrap my head around until these recent budget cuts, these recent, attendance being as low as it is. So this is it's very interesting, at least to me.
It's again a different dynamic. Some people, we know the vast majority of Disney World's attendants are tourists. And so for many of them, it's like, either a once a year thing, once a few years, maybe once in just a full lifetime. Like, this is the only time I can save up. And if this is the only time you're going to save up, you're going to pick a time where you're going to get the most bang for your buck. So that's something that's been happening. And I just remember, just to further add to the complication, they switched from like strict like season pricing to more flexible pricing. So like if you pick dates like far out, like a year in advance, they'll be cheaper for if you pick them a few days later. And even that has varying degrees depending on summer and so forth. So again, a full overcomplication of the ticketing, almost as an effort to kind of control and monitor crowds in the way that they want to, and they might have gone too far. We don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that the differences in prices are big enough. Like, for a what's it called? A non-peak day, it's not a big enough gap in price from a non-peak day to a peak day. And I feel like, okay, well, I'm saving like $5 between the two. I mean, that's an over-exaggeration, but I'm just like, I think like if the non-peak day pricing was like $10 lower than it is currently, I feel like that would bring more people in, because it's like what T Will was saying, like the prices of the parks are costing so much that even with like the low tier pricing, people still want to come on the day of the year where they're getting the most bang for their buck. They're able to go on all the rides that they want to see, and then with how easy it is to check on, if rides are open or not, it's like people are choosing the days to come when the rides that they want to go on are operating. So it's like in the past, it was kind of one of those things, like when I was a kid, no one checked to see if Haunted Mansion was going to be open when they went to Disneyland. They just went to Disneyland. If it wasn't open, then oops, oh well. But now today it's like everyone can see that stuff. It's readily available information. So now people can be picky with what days they go. And Disney keeps trying to adjust the prices, but if there isn't a big enough gap in non-peak prices versus peak day prices, I don't think they're going to see that many people come in.
The other issue that this kind of leads to, as you're saying, where people are noticing refurbs and so forth, is that it then makes, especially for Walt Disney World, it makes refurbs less common, so to speak. Like, Splash Mountain gets routine refurbs generally. Big Thunder did get a good refurb a couple years back, but then you look at something like Expedition Everest, and they have not touched that since 2006. Don't need to bring up the elephant in the room. We my favorite, Space Mountain. Overall, so it makes you, or even Haunted Mansion at Disney World could use some touch ups here and there. It kind of creates this idea of, well, everybody wants to come at a certain point, so why should we risk doing this unless we absolutely have to? Mm-hmm. Why should we risk doing the touch up if all we're going to do is upset some families who might never come again?
Yeah, you can see the issues of refurbishing things, in almost every ride and attraction. Splash Mountain here at Disneyland, they used to replace the grass on the hillsides twice a year. Then they reduced that down to once a year recently. And now it's been like 2 years since they replaced the grass on the mountain, and it's completely overgrown. It looks weird. It doesn't look like it's well kept like it used to be. So it just looks like it's full of weeds, and they've yet to replace it all. And it's because they don't want to put Splash Mountain down for an extended refurbishment, even on the cold days, because they need that ride to be open while things are, not going so well. Especially when it comes to maintenance budgets across the park. It's just incredible how much cutbacks are going on just across the board, just to try to save money because of the fact that less and less people are coming to the parks recently. I thought that probably 2 days ago we'd see the attendance suddenly spike because it's the start of their Halloween season. Mm-hmm. It's only been 2 days, so it's not like I have much to go on, but it doesn't look like it's busy yet. So that's just a little concerning. So
there's only one they have only one Hail Mary that they have, and that's Rise of the Resistance.
Which
yes
is a perfect transition into, thank you, he's smug, he knew what he was saying. Perfect transition into our second,
may I add one
topic.
more thing?
Yes,
before we officially change over. So if anyone has seen the Dapper Dans at Disneyland very recently, let me know, because me and my friend Mateo, we haven't seen them in a while since Disney started the cutbacks on different shows and stuff at Disneyland, and I'm a little concerned. Like, I don't know if they're only there on weekends or if they haven't been there at all. So if someone's seen them recently, like in the past week or so, say something, because I want to know.
Yeah, I did see discussion of that as well. We should make like missing posters signs and put them on the side of milk cartons. Have you seen the Dapper Dans? Anyways, we're going to be getting into that as well very soon. But for our third and final topic, we sort of mishmashed, I guess is what you could say. Two topics into one that segues into the other. First bit, to end the show, we'd like to talk about some recent rumblings from Florida and California about how well Rise of the Resistance is going, the construction of Rise of the Resistance, that is. Now, according to some insiders from the WDW Magic forums, Walt Disney World is expecting to announce a delay for the opening of their version of Rise, which is slated to be open on December 5th. I remember the announcement of that. I can't remember how they phrased it, that Walt would be proud of the technological advancements of the ride, so they decided to open it on his birthday. I think that's how they phrased it in their blog post. But apparently they're holding off announcing it so as to not damage potential holiday resort bookings. They also state that the budget for both versions of the ride continue to skyrocket and that Team Disney Anaheim are continuing to freak out because September attendance hasn't met expectations, even with the annual pass holders unblocked. And lastly, Florida's version of Smuggler's Run is continually... Smuggler's Run, yeah, that's right. I was confused. Smuggler's Run is continually outperformed by Slinky Dog Dash, of all attractions. So this is I remember I was trying to search for topics these past couple weeks, and people from the server have been begging us to not talk about Galaxy's Edge because we've been talking about it for so long this past year. But I'm sorry, we're committing a cardinal sin here. We're going to be talking about some Galaxy's Edge stuff, but then we're going to be transitioning into some Disneyland capacity. Well, what's the phrase I should use? Disneyland Resort attendance. That's the phrase. So let's go ahead and start with Mr. T. Will here. What are your thoughts about these recent rumors about Rise of the Resistance getting an even further delay?
It gives me a lot of concern for the attraction because they've been billing this as pretty much the second coming of theme parks. This is going to be the biggest and most amazing technologically advanced project attraction in the world, and pretty much the thing is that with every screw up that we're hearing about or every delay that we're doing, it brings in the question. It pretty much raises doubts and questions for the attraction, and it makes me think of it this way: Is Rise going to be a ride that bit off more than it could chew, and they had to really kind of figure out and find the diamond in the rough, a la Test Track? Because I had a huge amount of issues and problems, delayed constantly before it opened, to pretty good reviews, being a really good ride.
Mm-hmm.
Or is it going to be maybe more along the lines of Test Track, where the technical problems never really get fixed and it just becomes kind of a dumpster fire that disappoints more than it does wow? That's probably the best way I can really sum up my feelings on the matter, and hearing that it's getting delayed gives me pause of because this is their Hail Mary. If this doesn't work, then it'd be safe to say that Galaxy's Edge is Iger's Euro Disney.
Okay. Well, that's a good way to sort of phrase it, I guess. Rise of the Resistance being their Hail Mary. Alex, thinking very deeply.
Well, you see, I'm not. I don't know much about sports, so I have no idea what a Hail Mary is.
So,
is it a prayer?
Well, I mean,
Hail Mary. I mean, if you're the sports guy. You take it, Matt.
So yeah. I mean, it's a Hail Mary is a prayer, but it's also, I guess, in the context of when you're playing a football game. Let's say, I'm gonna overcomplicate this, but it's the only way I can thoroughly explain it to Alex. Let's say Team X is down by 3 points and they have the ball. When they call a quote-unquote Hail Mary, it's their sort of last-ditch effort to try and win the game. So you'd have your wide receivers run as deep as they can into the end zone, throw the ball to them, and if they catch it in the end zone, they get the touchdown, win the game. Then, of course, the Hail Mary worked. But if they miss it, then they lose the game. So that's, I don't know if that was a good enough explanation, but
Okay, well, I'll just go into my opinion.
I'm guessing it wasn't that good, but I tried my hardest.
Sam actually put it very well. Last second attempt at winning the game by chucking the ball as far as they can and hope someone catches it.
Yeah, that's a better way. Thank you, Sam.
Okay, there we go. I can understand that. There's a lot less terminology in there that I can understand. Okay, so Rise of the Resistance. I think as T. Will put it, they did bite off more than they could chew. They wanted to pull out all the stops. They wanted to take all the best of their special effects and their ride technologies, put it all in one building to really wow people. But the problem was that they were trying a bunch of new things that they didn't know whether or not they could do. And, I do give them credit that they tried. I really do, because that's what Walt would have done. He would have said, well, make it work. Find a way to make it work. But the problem is that today's company doesn't work the same way as it did when Walt was alive. Back then, Walt, who considered himself, like a bee, as he once put it, he goes from office to office, taking ideas and transplanting them to each other and each person, and he called it cross-pollination. And it was something where even the Imagineers could discuss with each other ideas. The problem is that process doesn't exist anymore. If Imagineers want to share ideas, they have to write it down on a list of notes, wait till the next meeting between Imagineers, discuss it with each other, and then one guy at the very top says, no, I don't like it. I like my idea better. And there you go. You throw out all those good ideas because the guy on top gets the final say, and so it's they don't have that same imaginative way of coming up with solutions. Instead, they get frustrated at each other, and then the company has to come in, and say, all right, stop, do something else. I know this company very well, and so I'm going to make a prediction. I predict that the most amazing of the things that they've told us about Rise of the Resistance will probably be cut out, especially the stuff that is detrimental to how the ride operates, because I think that's their biggest issue right now is they can't even get the vehicles moving consistently because of a whole bunch of issues. And I think that Disney's gonna step in to Imagineering and say, all right, you guys can't fix this. We're going to fix it. Budget cuts. And they're going to tell them, all right, you need to figure out a different way of doing this, a way that's tried and true. I think that we might even see an alteration to the actual ride system in order to make it more like something they've already created. I don't mean a major alteration. I mean something like, for instance, they're saying how the ride vehicles were operating off of Wi-Fi, but that's been a huge Achilles heel because the Wi-Fi is always going out because there's so many vehicles. I think they're going to have to resort to their old way of doing trackless rides, which was, special pucks embedded in the floor that give it the information, things like that. So, and then certain special effects that are holding them back. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I was thinking about it yesterday. They might have to just cut those out of the thing because they're not going to be able to get it done in time. The company is going to become impatient. And this is what they do, at least in the last 30 years, is they get impatient. They step in and say, we need this ride open. Doesn't matter if you're still working on it, get it so it's ready enough to open. And that's that. And so I think we're going to see it open probably early next year, but with a lot of the things that we were really looking forward to completely missing. So
if that does happen, what do you think the overall effect would be? Because they're making all these promises and building up all this hype. Would would falling short of those promises be a detrimental failure to the overall Star Wars project?
Well, I think the majority of families who are going to visit this attraction once it eventually opens don't necessarily know all of the technical achievements that Disney is touting this attraction to be. I feel like they'll still be impressed, while we who, obviously look into this kind of stuff, who have heard all these rumors from the insiders about redoing the trackless system, all that, we're probably going to be the ones that are most disappointed, I think, compared to the average American family, or I guess average family, I guess, who would visit the park and experience the ride.
That depends, because the average consumer is a little bit more savvy than a lot of people give them credit for. Like, basically, the simple thing is that when you increase the prices and the overall product is good but not great, that will lead to at least some form of disappointment, where it's like, I spent $500 on 3-day tickets to go to Hollywood Studios for this, and this is good, but it's not. I don't think it's $500 worth. That mentality does ring. It does ring for kind of the general public.
Okay,
and that's maybe I'm getting too concerned. Maybe it will just be good enough for the general public to keep it sustainable. But the thing is that if we don't consider all the options, we'll then end up with the same hubris that led us to where we are now with attendance issues at the U.S. parks.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I see that. I do feel like, I don't know. I do feel like the average, like I said, American family won't necessarily be disappointed by the ride, but it's people like us who know of all the rumblings happening inside. And someone said in the chat that Eric said, I read that they cheaped out on the trackless ride system and bought a Chinese one and reinstalled the one at DCA with the tried and true system from a Mice Chat article. That was an interesting article that I feel I should have added here as well. That Mice Chat article that was sort of detailing the tariffs, I guess, on concrete, or was it steel? I think it was steel. Yeah, it was Alex. Yeah, I think he read that as well. It was a really interesting article. We'll link it in the description below, and it was something along the veins of what was it Eric that said that? It scrolled up. Yeah, something along the lines of what Eric said. But yeah, we'll link that in the description down below. Yeah, I don't know. It's a very interesting. We've been saying this for a while. If Rise of the Resistance ever opens, I guess it'll open eventually, I'm sure, but I don't know. I do agree with Alex. I think they did bite off more than they can chew. And I guess the one question I have to pose to not just you guys here and everybody listening, but to Disney, what do you really have to prove in the going all out on an attraction like this, trying to prove to the world? I mean, what do you really have to prove? I mean, you're already, by most general people, you're already touted as the most, I guess, quote unquote immersive. They building the how am I trying to phrase this? You guys know what I'm trying to say. What does Disney really have to prove in going all out on these fancy ride systems and tech for an attraction like this?
Matt, I wouldn't necessarily put all the blame on Disney, because true, they are the ones that ultimately decided to try and do something this crazy. But I think a lot of the blame, or at least a big portion of it, goes on the fans. The people of the world who, are becoming more and more desensitized to rides that don't have a constant, for lack of better words, finale going on from start to finish. There's a thing to be said that with almost everything in entertainment, be it movies, theme parks, whatnot, people are becoming more and more impatient. They want to see the kind of big climactic finale of a story or a show or a ride, but they want to see it throughout the whole thing. They're tired of waiting for the end of a movie to have this amazing, fun, just scenery. So a lot of rides and movies and entertainment, they're choosing to go all out, just throw everything out there. And when they do that, they ruin the integrity of things. I hate to say anything specific because it could be a number of things. And everything from the storyline to even their budget, because they're trying so hard to impress these hard to impress people that that it ends up costing them a ton of money, a ton of effort, and they find out we're not prepared for this. It's like as if people expect the best of the best from start to finish. You're supposed to save that till the end, to send people off on their way and go, wow, that was amazing. So I could go on and on about this kind of subject, but I think I've said what I needed to say about it. But it just it bothers me because it's just like, here's Rise of the Resistance, a ride that is from start to finish, one giant climactic finale, and you're gonna have issues. So
okay, I guess I'm not giving enough credit to the public, to the consumers. That's probably that was a really well put, Alex. Thank you. But T will go ahead and continue.
I think I'm taking a more simpler approach. I think what Disney wanted to prove, they want to dunk on Universal after they proved to be at least in some form a challenge after Wizarding World. And so because they felt challenged, they're like, okay, we got to go all out to get pretty much claim everything back and make sure and pretty much put them down and show that we are top dog. And they may have allowed the hubris may have gotten to them with this attraction.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I wasn't necessarily looking at it like that. Okay. Well, I don't know. Like I said, I've been saying this for the past however many episodes we're talking about this. We'll keep you guys updated on not just Rise of the Resistance, but I guess any further rumblings in terms of rumors regarding a Star Wars Land. But I'd also like to move on very briefly to another topic that sort of relates to this, not really. The attendance at Disneyland. I guess this is going to end up being like a 20-hour podcast because we could go on for a while about this, but we'll keep it toned down here for you guys because we're already almost at the hour and a half mark. So I'd like to speak directly to Mr. Alex, the historian, here about this, and I'd like him to sort of because he's in this podcast, I guess he's the one who goes to Disneyland most often, and I believe he was at the parks last week sometime. Well, I guess when you're watching this, it's last week. So, Alex, why don't you go ahead and give a brief update on what the crowd situation is like at Disneyland Resort?
Let's see. I was there. When was the last day I was there? I want to say, okay, it was Tuesday, September 10th. I was there. It was pretty not busy. I don't want to say empty because obviously it's just not empty, but it was very, very not busy. The wait times for rides was the best I've ever seen. Pirates was maybe a 5-minute wait. That's the maximum I waited in line, and most of the line was actually indoors. And Haunted Mansion was the same thing. It was maybe a 5-minute wait before we got into the stretching rooms. There was hardly that many people down Main Street. You could swing a dead cat without hitting someone. So let's see. Autopia. We got on Autopia in like 3 minutes, and that's weird because usually the wait for that is like 15 to 20 minutes at least.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of strange. It's a weird feeling when you go to Disneyland now because it's empty and there's like a kind of like stress amongst the cast members that they're like, why isn't it more busy, you know? And so the other thing too is, as great as a time that, you know, me and Mateo had, it's kind of concerning because it's just like they need more people than this to make their money. And you know, and then of course it's kind of upsetting too because we're big Disneyland Railroad fans, and the railroad is in just really poor shape, really poor condition, and it's getting worse, and it doesn't appear from the surface that anything's being done about it. So that's kind of the experience we had. Yeah, I mean, it just wasn't busy at all.
Well, I guess I forgot to mention at the top of this topic is that the annual pass holders have been unblocked recently, this past week, I believe, week and a half. So that was sort of I forgot to mention that. I don't know how I forgot to mention that because it ties very deeply into this conversation about Disneyland still being empty with all the APs unblocked. But then again, you can make the argue, hey, school just started, so kids are back in school. They're not necessarily spending out a lot of time in Disneyland. So there's really two sides to this, I guess. I've never really... We've been talking about this in the context of it being summer these past few months. Once Galaxy's Edge opened at Disneyland, attendance was down then. It's summertime. You'd expect a lot of people to be in Disneyland then, you know, May through August. You know, those are most notably the peak, I guess, months for the park when they're the most busiest. And then we went ahead and saw that not a lot of people went to Disneyland then. And yeah, it's just a very... I forgot to mention that at the top, but did you have anything you'd like to add on to that, Mr. AVH?
I was like, who's AVH? I'm
no,
like,
AVH, Alex the...
Yeah, I got that.
He meant to say AVHS.
Oh.
He's pulling up an old videotape.
Yeah. I don't have anything to add to that part, but I do have to mention Eric R., who's in the comments. He was saying, you know, that it's not empty right now. The Space Mountain is 65 minutes. All right, it might be, but last I was there was on Tuesday, so it wasn't busy on Tuesday. So I'm just giving information on that. I'm glad that Space Mountain is a 65-minute wait right now. That's exactly what we want it to be. So, yeah, but I mean, as far as I know, it hasn't been very busy the past 2 weeks. So we'll see. If it's a consistent busy park every day for the next month or two, then that would be great. It looks like things would be on track to get better, but we'll see. You know, one day isn't enough to judge whether or not, you know, the park is going to be doing well for the next year, the rest of the year. I mean, so
yeah, because my park has been Disney World. The waits that I've seen haven't been particularly better. I mean, like it was like 50 minutes max for like Flight of Passage throughout the entire park, and it was like maybe 45 for Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, the most popular ride at Magic Kingdom, and then like 45 minutes for Millennium Falcon. And you want to know what else had a 45-minute wait along with Smuggler's Run?
Actually, wait. I want to guess.
It's not all right.
Wait, is it in the Magic Kingdom? Okay, this is gonna be fun. Okay.
I'm talking specifically Hollywood Studios.
Oh, whoa! I don't know. I was really confused. Okay.
For Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, it had 35 minutes actually, but there was this one attraction that had a 45-minute wait. You want to know what that was?
Okay. I can't think of any other Hollywood studios. Toy Story, was it Midway Mania?
No,
okay.
Absolutely not.
I give up. That's the only ride I can think of off the top of my head.
It was a Mike and Sully meet and greet.
Oh, we did it! Mike and
Sully. That had a longer wait. I mean, one could also argue like capacity. You know, capacity of a meet and greet is usually worse than that. But then at the same time, it's like usually when I worked at Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, we would hit like 90, and the waits for like a meet and greet would be like 30. So it's funny to see
So
those
it's
those
amazing.
numbers.
You
like-
guys, we did it. We killed Star Wars. Mike and Sully killed Star Wars, everybody. That's amazing.
I mean, it's again, it's September. It's September's slow. It's always been slow. Even as the parks are getting more equally crowded, you still have peaks and valleys. So we should take that into account.
Yeah.
It's just so odd. Like, and it's just very odd to see this, not just random days where like Space Mountain at Magic Kingdom's like 30 minutes in July. I saw that. And unfortunately, I was at work, so I couldn't do it. but overall trend is the concerning factor.
Yeah, that is another good point to bring up. We won't necessarily know what the, I guess, ramifications are of this. We're like talking about this like it's some sort of plague that's hit Disneyland that's like keeping people away from the park, and we have no idea why. We'll know more about this, what happens with this once we get into the November, December months, and even January as well. Once Rise of the Resistance opens as well, we should start like a new segment on the show, like Watch Point or something, that just talks where we just like detail how busy Disneyland was this past week. I'll keep that locked away in the idea vault for future episodes. But yeah, like I said,
pretty dusty in there.
Oh, where's my laugh track? Laugh track. Where is it?
Michael Jackson's in the audience.
Guys, Michael Jackson, special guest, talking about capacity, but the laugh track's still going. Anyways, yeah, we'll keep, like I said, like I've been saying, we'll be updating you guys about the crowd situation at Disneyland. Again, like we said, it was busy, or I guess it was slow when Alex went, and I have been talking to people who have been going throughout the week saying it's been slow as well, but again, it is back to school time for the majority, I believe, of schools in Orange County. I guess both Orange counties. Ooh, Orange County, California, Orange County, Florida. That's pretty cool. So we'll keep you guys updated. Yeah, we'll probably hold off on talking about this again until the next month comes, when November comes. So we'll have more concrete information to base all of this off of.
Matt, the next month is not November.
Wait, the next month is not November? Guys, the next month is October. I'm losing my mind. I don't know why I just completely forgot October existed. I mean, what else is new? Laugh track. But before we close out the show, we do have a few voicemails to listen to from Avery. Let's see. We do have 3 voicemails, so... Oh, I thought this was 5 minutes long, but it was the time it came in, 5 o'clock. So let's go ahead and listen to this first voicemail here from Avery.
In regards to like the whole Iger resigning thing, in my opinion, it makes sense for Iger to resign from Apple because that's just his competition. It might make sense to be on the board of his competition in terms of will be their competing streaming services. That's what it makes sense economically. So yes, so I think in that case, Iger made the right decision. You know, he helped Apple a lot back then. But it just makes sense economically. And in terms of the sports, I'm not surprised about the sports at all. Florida Man took them all. That's what Florida Men do. That's why Florida's always on the news. That's not surprised. Not surprising at all. Scalpers ruin everything. Yeah, pretty much. Like even for Olympic tickets, like in like London, Beijing, whenever they host the Olympics, people buy the tickets and then they resell them for higher prices. That's how it was in Beijing. That was a big deal in Beijing, where people would go and find the venues and then they would sell tickets for higher prices than they got them for, to rip people off, of course. But that's China for you, and that's Florida for you, and that's Anaheim for you, because I think they took the sports away there too. But yeah, it's reality. It's really reality.
All right, first voicemail there from Avery, talking about how Florida Man is responsible for stealing all the sporks in Galaxy's Edge in Hollywood Studios. Let's see. I did just get a text message from someone saying how PhilharMagic in California Adventure is dead. We'll get to that here as well, but we do have 2 more voicemails to listen to here from Avery.
Yeah, I agree. About like people give the Guardians of the Galaxy coaster a lot of hate because of what was once there. Like people just don't want Epcot to change. And the thing is, Epcot is all about change, so it doesn't make sense to like keep it like it was back in the 80s. Then it'll just be like a time machine to somewhere back in time. It's like what North Korea has done with their capital city, where it looks like you're still back in the time during the Cold War. That's what it would feel like. So Epcot needs change, especially that whole area of Epcot needs change. And as much as I like Alan's Energy Adventure, because I'm like a science buff, science fanatic, and stupid Judy, stupid energy, and I'm kind of fan of Bill Nye too, but I'm really excited for the coaster. It's going to be a nice change for that pavilion, which desperately needed change. It was really outdated. It needed to change. And even I saw this person who met Bill Nye, and then they talked about the ride, and Bill Nye was like, wait, that ride still exists? Like, that's the thing. It was outdated. It needed to go. And that's how I feel about it. But yeah, I'm really excited for the coaster. The vehicles look nice. I like them.
I was laughing at Ellen's Energy Adventure auto-corrected here to Alan Burger Venture. That's why I was laughing, if you guys were curious.
Alan Burger Venture.
Yeah.
I understand what Avery's getting at, but I think he is kind of misunderstanding the criticism of Guardians in Epcot. It's not that, because with the Epcot purists that I've talked to, it's not so much that they hate change, because they knew that Epcot was about evolution. You know, the ride's getting updated. That was kind of that was one of the ideas behind Future World. It's more the idea that they feel like that the park has been abandoned. Like, the way I can put it is that you have this round hole, you have it for a purpose, and after some years it starts rotting and so forth. But then you come along and you say, wow, this round hole is pretty bad. We need to fit something in there to make it look better. So you fit a square peg in there. It's not really fitting. So what you do is that you then start cutting it so that you can fit your square peg into that hole. But what you have is not really a round hole anymore, not even a square hole. What you have is just a mess of what it used to be. That's probably the best way I can summarize what I think is going on with Epcot overall, if that makes sense.
Excuse me. Yeah, I agree as well, but we do have one more voicemail to listen to. Excuse me, here from Avery, so let's get right into this. I believe this is about the Hong Kong Disneyland. Excuse me. Hong Kong Disney Castle.
In my opinion, I like the new Hong Kong castle. In my opinion, Hong Kong needed a new castle, because when it opened, it was pretty much a budget Disneyland. It had a lot lower budget because of 2 words, Michael Eisner. And this castle will give the park a new identity, a standalone identity that it needs. Hong Kong Disneyland deserves all this attention. It wants to be like a standalone new travel destination. It doesn't want to just be a park on the visit every Disney park list. It wants to be more than just that. And Disney is really trying to add change to the so-called budget Disneyland. And this castle is part of that change. I'm excited for the postman that they're getting. I'm excited for this castle. It's all gonna look nice in the end. And they even have a nice hotel over there, like the Disney Explore Lodge, which plays into that whole like secret society thing. It's all part of that. And the Mystic Manor is really, really cool, really nice. My favorite haunted mansion, but yeah, I like the castle so far. I think it's gonna come out great. And like I said, Hong Kong needs this. if they don't have this, if they don't get this, all this change, then Hong Kong's gonna keep going downhill, and it's gonna close. And Disney doesn't want that to happen. So why their price will be embarrassing for them. And I'm just wishing that the mainland Chinese tourists that Hong Kong lost as a result of Shanghai opening, that they return to Hong Kong to give the park another chance instead of just a mini Disneyland. Because now it's just trying to not be a cheap copy of Anaheim. That's what I think.
Alrighty, well, thank you, Mr. Avery, for sending in those 3 lovely voicemails to us. Again, if you guys would like to leave a voicemail here on the Matterhorn Mondays show, you can do so by calling 575-386-5814. It doesn't have to be just during the show. You guys can call in if you want. Or I guess you can text in. People have been doing that recently instead of calling, I guess. It's just whichever you prefer. But we did get before we finish up, we have a text here from someone who would like to remain anonymous. In all caps, Phil Our Magic at DCA is dead. Check out Disneyland Today's tweet. And I guess I closed out of the tweet. Let's see. This tweet is from Disneyland Today. She spent years caring for a human. Now it's time to care for her own. Come take a limited time sneak peek of Disney's Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, beginning September 27th at the Sunset Showcase Theater. So, I guess they are getting rid of, what is it called? PhilharMagic, in favor of a Maleficent
Which
preview?
is odd because I heard that they recently even added a Donald Duck animatronic, which was there for the Magic Kingdom and Tokyo versions, but they severely cheapened out on bringing PhilharMagic over to Disneyland, and so they just added that, and it's like, oh nope, we're not going to do that. We're going to post one of our millennial remakes, or anytime the word Maleficent the Maleficent movies are mentioned now, I couldn't care less about those.
Yeah, I saw the first one. I wasn't that big of a fan, but not to get into the whole Maleficent cinematic universe lore, it feels like this new movie is sort of a step backwards in terms of story from the first one.
Yeah.
More so than the first?
More so than the first, yeah. It's, if you watch oh, my camera just shut off. If you watch the first Maleficent movie, her whole arc throughout that movie is learning to, I guess, love people, because she got her wings chopped off from, I guess, spoilers, from King Stefan. He chopped her wings off, and then she started to hate people, and then she tried to kill Sleeping Beauty by putting her into the trance or whatever. But then by the end, she learns to love Sleeping Beauty, and then I think the curse, the curse can only be broken by true love's kiss. And I remember specifically watching the movie when the prince went down to kiss her, and he was up and he finished kissing her like on the lips. You know how it goes. And
yes, Matt.
I'm just trying. It's really weird. So the king or the prince kisses her, and you'd expect that to wake her up. True love's kiss, but it's like a plot twist where the prince doesn't wake her up. I think Maleficent kisses her on like the forehead or something, or like on the cheek, and then that wakes her up. So it's like true love. Maleficent learned love throughout the whole movie, but then it looks like in this new movie, she goes back to hating everybody. Again, I'm not trying to talk for 3 hours about the lore and history about the Maleficent movies, but yeah.
Well, I liked the first Maleficent movie because I remember back in high school we did a project where it was like, try to take a classic story and then turn it around so the villains looked like they were actually good people, but it was everyone else that was evil. And I thought that was a really amazing way of like telling a story. And then so when they created the Maleficent movie, I was like, that's awesome. Like, what if it was the fact that she was completely misunderstood? And it worked in its own way. But the fact it's like what Matt just said, like this new movie that they're creating is like, okay, so she learned her lesson in the first movie, but let's just pretend that she didn't. you know? And so it's like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, she learned how to love. So what, did she now learn like how to cut people out of her life? Is that the next step? It's like if you love someone, but you can't change them, cut them out of your life. You know, it's like, that's not a lesson you want to teach people. Like, come on.
Yeah, again, very interesting set of movies, I'm sure. I don't think I'm going to see the second one. But anyways, it's time to close out this show, you guys. We've been talking for a good while about everything Disney. We hope you all enjoyed our lovely discussions that we had here today. And someone said in chat, yeah, whatever, that Filler Magic is not dead. It'll come back once the Maleficent movie is out of, or goes into theaters, I guess. Once they stop the previews, it'll come back. And then they'll replace it again with another movie preview, I'm sure, and it'll cycle in and out like that. But anyways, my main camera died, so I'm doing this from this camera. Thank you to everybody for coming out to today's show. We appreciate Mr. T. Will as well for joining us today. And people were asking in chat if he has a YouTube channel. He does not. He said, and I quote, or something along the lines of how he lurks in my Discord server. So, yeah, he doesn't have a channel.
I'm just a leech.
Yeah, it's just a leech, yeah. Well, we love having Mr. T. Will on the show. Thank you again for joining us. Do you have any closing thoughts you'd like to say to all the T. Will fans out there listening?
Why are you a fan of me?
You know, I don't even think we know T. Will's first name. I don't think we've ever learned.
And you're not going to learn.
Oh my gosh.
It's Theodore.
Is it Theodore? Is it Theodore?
I'll never confirm nor deny. No,
Oh!
I will say it's not. I will say it's not. It's not Theodore.
Is it Taco?
It's Terhorn.
Oh, Terhorn. Oh, okay. Matterhorn. Oh, it's a good one. Well, anyways, yeah, it's been an episode, you guys, and my butt is sweating a lot because it's really hot in here, so we're gonna have to go ahead and close out this show. Again, thank you to everybody for coming out. Again, if you'd like to leave a voicemail, 575-386-5814. We also appreciate everybody. That's not my personal number. That's a Google voice number. So if you're trying to call me in the middle of the night, if you have like nightmares or something and you want me to sing you back to sleep, I probably won't answer. Yeah, so just keep that in mind. Yeah, we appreciate everybody coming out here, watching with us live, chatting live. Link to I guess these streams are live on both channels now, so I don't have to link my second channel anymore. Link to Alex's channel and his Twitter, and I think T-Will has a Twitter as well, so link to all of those things will be in the description down below. Go sub to Alex. He makes great videos. His recent history video on It's a Small World was sublime. I think that's how that word is supposed to be used. And T-Will also tweets on Twitter, I believe. So go follow.
No, I don't.
Oh,
I hate Twitter. So I don't tweet really often. So I don't tweet at all. So I hate that. I hate that site.
Well, I'll link it nonetheless. Maybe if T-Will gets 1,000 followers overnight, he'll come back to Twitter and start tweeting more, giving his opinions on Disney parks. But anyways, thank you all for coming out to today's episode. And as always, have a great, big, beautiful tomorrow.